Samson, and today we are going to look about glycolysis. So basically, glycolysis is the metabolism of glucose to yield energy. So it happens in two steps, and the first step is called the energy investments. And the second stage is called the energy payoff stage. So the process has 10 steps, and we are going to look and dig deeper into the 10 steps. So basically, glucose is a 6-carbon molecule. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The 6-carbon molecule, and we are going to use 6 C's to represent the process. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we are going to use 6 C's to represent glucose. So this glucose the first step is called phosphorylation. And this step, phosphate is added, and the phosphate is added to carbon number 6. So the end product this structure is called the glucose 6-phosphate. And the enzyme facilitating this process is called the hexokinase or the glucokinase. This in the liver. It's called hexokinase or glucokinase. So this glucose is added a phosphate, and the end product is called glucose 6-phosphate. So the second step is called the isomerization. And the isomerization, an isomer of glucose is formed. And this isomer of glucose is called the fructose 6-phosphate. So this is the isomer of glucose, and the enzyme facilitating the process is called the phosphoglucase isomerase. Phosphoglucase isomerase. Isomerase from the word isomer. And this fructose is the isomer of glucose 6-phosphate. So the third step, a phosphate is added, and so the third step, a phosphate is added to carbon number 1. So the end product is fructose 1,6, and because the carbon chains are sandwiched, the phosphates and these carbon chains are between the phosphate, we call it a bisphosphate. Now the name of this structure is called the fructose 1,6-bisphosphate. And the enzyme facilitating this process is called the phosphofructokinase phosphofructose kinase 1. So this is the enzyme facilitating this third process. So after the fructose 1,6 bisphosphate, this fructose 1,6 bisphosphate is split. So fructose 1,6 bisphosphate, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This fructose 1,6 bisphosphate is split into two. Is split into two. So this fructose 1,6 bisphosphate is split into two. And the first structure is called the dihydroxyacetone phosphate. And this second structure is called the glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate. The first structure is called the dihydroxyacetone phosphate, and this second structure is called the glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate. So this enzyme that facilitates the fourth process is called aldolase. Aldolase is the enzyme that facilitates fructose 1,6 bisphosphate to be split into two. The first is called the dihydroxyacetone phosphate, and the second is called the glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate, abbreviated as G3P. So when these two molecules are split, the fifth process is here. So dihydroxyacetone phosphate and glyceraldehyde phosphate, these are isomers. So the enzyme that facilitates this splitting is called the triose phosphate isomerase. So more of dihydroxyacetone phosphate is directed to glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate. So glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate continues with the process, and the sixth process, a phosphate is added to give 1,3 bisphosphoglycerate. So we said whenever the carbon chains are between the two phosphates, that structure is called a bisphosphate. So this structure is called 1,3-bisphosphate. And the enzyme that facilitates this process is called the glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate dehydrogenase. So this is the enzyme that facilitates the sixth process. This is the enzyme. And that facilitates facilitates this sixth process is called the glycaldehyde 3-phosphate dehydrogenase. And whenever you hear the term dehydrogenase, just remember that NAD positive forms NADH. And we said more of dihydroxyacetone phosphate is converted to glycaldehyde 3-phosphate. So we have 2. So the seventh process, a phosphate is removed. Phosphate is removed, and this structure is called 3-phosphoglycerate. 3-phosphoglycerate. And the enzyme that facilitates this process is called the phosphoglycerate kinase. We said 2 here because more of dihydroxyacetone phosphate is converted to glycaldehyde 3-phosphate. So this is the seventh process. So the next step number 8, the phosphate is transferred to carbon number 2 to give 2-phosphoglycerate. And the enzyme that facilitates this process is called the phosphoglycerate mutase. So the next step, an enol is added to give phosphoenol pyruvate. And the enzyme that facilitates this process is called the enolase. So the final step, a pyruvate is formed, which continues to the next step, which is the Krebs cycle. The pyruvate is formed, and the enzyme that facilitates this process is called the pyruvate kinase. And just as this step, ADP is converted to ATP. So the end products of glycolysis are, we said here, whenever we hear dehydrogenase and NAD is converted to NADH, so the end products are 2-NADH, and we have 2 ATP plus this 2 ATP gives 4 ATP, and we have the 2 pyruvate. So basically the whole process of glycolysis, and we said is divided into 2. The first step, which is called the energy investment step, and the second step is called the energy payoff step. So the second step begins at the 6th process all the way to the 10th process. So that's the whole process of glycolysis. Thanks for watching, and remember to subscribe to my channel. Any question you may ask in the comment section. Thanks for watching.